So this video is going to walk through not only the benefits of Power BI in this example for a credit control report for a credit union, but also the benefits of Power Automate and how you can use Power Automate with Power BI to kind of do things that you probably wouldn't have even thought is possible. So in terms of Power BI and the reports, I'm quickly going to go through some of the pages in this report just to kind of highlight how much time you would save if you were doing this, weekly, monthly, quarterly. You would save probably upwards of, I would say, 2 to 3 days per month at least if you were able to implement Power BI in this example for this report only. So essentially, credit control report, for anyone that doesn't know it, it's mainly used for the credit controller of the credit union to keep on top of outstanding debt to make sure that they're getting money in from members that obviously owe money. So the first page here, I'm not going to go over each page in detail, I'm just going to skim through it. The first page is an overview of a snapshot in time of essentially live. So how is our loans looking? So you can see here there is 5,050 loans not in arrears, and there's 760 loans in arrears, which is essentially means you're behind on your payments and your loan, and there's 1,233 covered loans. Okay, so not too worried about them because those loans are covered. So this would be the key focus for a credit controller. Um, and we have the percentages here. So 10.79 loans are in arrears, but we want to break that out between how long are they in arrears. So how many weeks behind are they in their loan? So the majority of them are still only between 0 and 9 weeks behind. So that's a good sign. It would be a lot worse if that 505 was down, obviously, towards here, like 40 to 52 or 53 and greater. And we can see the loan balances for those categories as well. So automatically, when the new data flows in every single day for this particular credit union, they get a view of this. There's no exporting data from any systems, clean it, making sure that all the formulas update. It's all done automatically after it's built. So you can imagine how much time you would save there. We come to the next page and just a little bit more detail here of what we were looking at. So again, a little breakout here, the attached savings, the net loan, the number again, and broken out by each category. And we also have some bad debt ratio, A1 ratio, and taking secured loans into account. So the main focus for credit unions in Ireland in particular is the A1 ratio. So the loans that are greater than 9 weeks in arrears, what is a percentage of that of your loan book? And you can see here it is 2.34%. So that's quite good. But the focus of the credit controller might be, yes, it's good, but I want to get it even lower. So this is where you would use the report, because you're not having to either get someone to export this data or do it yourself. You walk in every single day and you can see what is that A1 ratio as of today. Okay. I'm going to skim over the IBNR because I'm not sure we need to go through that. Historical IBNR analysis, and that this should actually say historical A1 ratio analysis, but essentially this is very, very good for looking at kind of basically historic A1 ratio. So if we come back to this page, we're looking at the A1 ratio at a point in time, which is today. But if we come back to this page here, we can see a view over, in this example, 2023. But what if we wanted to look at maybe 2026, which is the financial year 2026 from October, and 2025. So you can see there the trend is actually really, really good for this credit union. So back in October of 2020, financial year 2025, so October 2024, this particular credit union was up at 3.5%, and they actually got it down 1% to 2.5. So you can see there automatically, and the credit control team are doing a great job to make sure that they're keeping the A1 ratio down. And if you wanted to drill into specific months, you could do that as well. So if we only wanted to look at, let's say, October, November, and December, Q1, so you can look at Q1. Now that is a combination of both years, so you can see 2025 and 2026. But again, the trend is obviously going down. So I really like this page. It's great to kind of take a step back and see, right, okay, we're at 2.34% now, but where did we come from, and where are we going to try and get to maybe this time next year? Can we get it down another 0.5% to maybe, just under the 2%? We have a performing loan book here where we can see what percentage of our loans are kind of performing. I'm not going to go into detail on the formula behind that, but we have a formula built to kind of calculate a performing loan. And we have the loans in arrears in terms of the value of them. So This again is a really good one to take a step back, so we can go quite a bit back, and we can go quite a bit forward. We don't need to go much forward past December in this example. So we can see the balance of the loans broken out again by the category, so 0 to 9 weeks. The majority of them are in there, which is great. We can see total in arrears, total loan balance, your goal of 0.7%, your percent of your accounts in arrears. So all very, very valuable information. And again, coming back to the kind of benefit of going with Power BI in this example is, just to highlight it again, there's no exporting out data and, each month and updating your monthly management Excel spreadsheet, which I know the majority of businesses, not only credit unions, are still doing. I used to be a previous auditor, and I would see that in all of the businesses that we would audit, there would always be monthly management accounts. And it's just a very inefficient way to do reporting nowadays when you have a tool like Power BI, which can automate so much of it. So this is the exact same as the previous page, but we're just looking at the number of loans, okay? Before we finish up on the Power BI side of things, I'm conscious we're over 6 minutes in already, then we can kind of just categorize our actual loan book. So let's focus on home and loan performance. So how are we doing there? So the current loan balance for the loans in arrears for home and loan balance is 58,000, so quite small. We have 168 loans outstanding. That's not loans in arrears. But really quickly, if we wanted to kind of focus on the loans that were in arrears, we come over here and we're already sorting it. So these two loans are the only loans that are in arrears for this particular categorization, home and loan business, okay? And that's where the loan balance is coming. The 10.4 and the 47.6 makes up that 58,091. We can then see the top 150 loans in terms of exposure. So how many of those? So we're categorizing this based off the net loan balance. So 148 of them aren't in arrears, which is absolutely fantastic, with over 99%, and only 2 of them are, and they're only in 0 to 9 weeks in arrears. And again, if we wanted to focus on those 2 loans, we click on this and we click on it again, and we can then see those 2 loans there. So that might be a focus for this control officer to see how this loan is kind of performing over the next maybe 2 or 3 months. If we click on it again, some people might have noticed what's going on here. Why is there a negative? So in terms of loans, you can actually kind of escalate the payments as well to essentially pay less interest. So that's what's going on here. These loans are being paid down much quicker than they need to be. So you can see here the maturity date is 2055. So this loan is well ahead of schedule, which is why they're negative in arrears. So kind of prepayment essentially. And then we also have all of the categorizations here. So categorizing loan balances between 50 and 75, kind of just repeating myself, but essentially the value is still massive because again, it's automatic. So when the new data flows in next month, if there's 2 or 3 loans that have fallen out of this kind of filter category because they've been a balance has been paid back, or if there's another 5 that have to be added in, you don't need to worry about that. It's done automatically. We have 6+ top-ups in the last 2 years, so that's another focus that this particular credit union want to focus on. So how many of those are in arrears? So there's a little bit more here of those that are in arrears, so you have basically some in every single categorization. But again, the majority of them aren't, which is great. And we also maybe focus on, before we get to Power Automate, we also have some related party and officer loan data here as well. So essentially filtering those loans to focus on related parties and officers as well. So a huge amount of information in there. You can imagine how long it was previously taking this credit union to analyze all of this in Excel, and you can now imagine how much time they have back to actually spend time on trying to get that A1 ratio down even further, and really not spending any more time on collecting data because that's automatic now. And even now, when I come to the next one, we've kind of taken a step further, which is Power Automate. So I just wanted to touch on how we're taking it that step further with Power BI and how we're utilizing a fantastic tool like Power Automate. So when we get here, what I was tasked with was this particular credit union were interested to see how can they use Power Automate to help the credit controller, because they could have upwards of maybe 200 or 300 loans, I think it was, that in this example were over 4 weeks in arrears, and that's a lot of people to try and contact, and not only that, the loan balance is ever moving. So if you're contacting 20 of them from that list and 2 weeks pass, that list has changed. So they might not be greater than 4 weeks in arrears anymore. And you need to, again, go back to constantly exporting data out. You don't need to do that here. It automatically shows who is 4 weeks in arrears basically today. So what we do is we actually send a bulk email out. So we have our list here of everybody that is greater than 4 weeks in arrears. And for obvious reasons, I've excluded we have an email column that gives us the email of the member. So what we can do then is we can send them an email using this spreadsheet to say, you're 4 weeks or you're greater than 4 weeks in arrears. Can you please contact the credit control officer? So what that actually does is it kind of pushes it back to the member and says, look, you haven't been paying your loan recently, and the credit control officer gets a lot of time back because he doesn't need to make that initial kind of communication, and he doesn't even need to again collect the data. We have a video that's basically confirmed that it saved him a week a month, and that's only focusing on greater than 4 weeks in arrears. We've recently improved, or not improved it, but kind of enhanced it to also do greater than 9 weeks and greater than, I think it was like 50 weeks. So we've kind of built this automation 3 separate times, and you can imagine again how much time that's saving the credit control officer. So what we do is we use this, send the bulk email, and then what we do is we actually get Power Automate using a couple of different steps that I have. I'm not going to go into the actual technicalities behind it, but we essentially then say, right, okay, this time tomorrow, there could be a new member in here that wasn't greater than 4 weeks in arrears in our original bulk email. We obviously want to send them an email. So Power Automate goes through this table every single day. It checks if there was a member that wasn't in the original kind of bulk email. If there is, it sends them an email. And what we then can do is we come to this page. We have those spreadsheets saved down on SharePoint that we're using to kind of do that analysis. So we have the bulk email, we save that down, and that's saved down here. So we can see, okay, here's the list of members that were included in that bulk email, and we have the date in here just to kind of show the credit control officer that this was the date that we sent that email. 162 people were included in that email, and we can then focus on the right hand side, and we can say, okay, how many people have been receiving these automated daily emails since we set up the bulk email? Because again, Power Automate's going every single day through this table, and it's saying, okay, who was not in this table here? And what we can then do is we can see, okay, 41 automated emails were sent in October, 28 in November, 29 in December. We're only 8 days into January, and we're at 6 for January already, okay? And that's the list of people here. So, and we can see when the email was sent, how many weeks in arrears they are, and the email time as well. Okay, so it's really, really fantastic for the credit control officer to see, okay, I can see the list of people that were sent the bulk email, but also that have been kind of sent a recent email. They've recently just went over 4 weeks in arrears. We get to this page, and this is probably my favorite one, is what we can then do is, again, not going into the technicalities behind it, but we now have a historical view of a particular member and loan account. So with some systems, you get a snapshot in time, so you can see, okay, this loan, so if we focus on this loan account 219, this loan is 4 weeks behind today, but in the system, in a week, you'll see where they are behind in a week. You won't get that historic view of where they were a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago. You can potentially get it, but sometimes it's quite time consuming and messy, and you might have to log into like an archive database, or you might have to go kind of look at a report that you already ran, and you need to find the member and the loan account, and it's essentially time consuming. But in here, you can see that it's exactly the opposite. So what we're able to do is, in this example, we use the member number to search for that member, but we could also use the loan account because some members might have more than one loan. So in this example, this member doesn't, because you can see the loan account ID 219 is consistent for every single row. But what this does is looks at the date of the arrears listing. Probably a little bit of overkill here. We're pulling down the date of the arrears every single day, but there's no harm in doing that because there's only like 200 rows in the spreadsheet. So we just said we may as well save them down each day. What we also have then is we have the weeks in arrears, and this is a very interesting one because if we click on the weeks in arrears here, we can see this member has went from 5 weeks in arrears on the 28th of September to 4 weeks in arrears, or sorry, click this again, to 14 weeks in arrears on the 7th of January. And if we focus over here, this is probably my favorite visual, focusing on the Power Automate side of things, we can see the trend. So we can see in October, again, weeks in arrears were 5, they've went up to 14. The loan balance in October was 15,089, and it's only went down to 14,811. And that's more than likely why the weeks in arrears has went up so much, because they've only paid off just over €200 since October of their loan balance, and they're obviously due to pay back a lot more than that. So that's essentially, first of all, the benefits of Power BI in terms of time saving. I didn't even touch on the visual side of things, so I kind of forget, because I'm working with Power BI so long, that it's much more visual, obviously, than Excel as well, and everyone is visual. And then along with Power Automate, it's massively, massively powerful. These 2 pages, you can imagine, on top of collecting all the data, are huge for the credit control officer in this example, to save time and just keep on top of things better, and not have to always worry about, hold on, what was the balance of that loan like this time last month, or what's the trend on this member. If you're on the call, I can see that, well, you've only went from this loan balance to that loan balance in the last 6-7 months. So it's basically streamlining that full kind of process and giving time back to the credit control officer in this example to maybe work on more pressing items and try and get that A1 ratio down.